Hello guys and welcome back to Pop Culture Pedestal, and thanks for joining me again. On today's episode we're going to be covering part 3 of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles deep dive. If you've not listened to part 1 or part 2, I do recommend you going back and giving them a listen to, just so you know where you're up to with these episodes. In case I mention anything that I discussed in the previous episodes, I don't want you to be confused. On today's episode we're going to be discussing some of the stranger, more unsuccessful TV series and cartoons involving the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then some of the more successful ones that came later. So without further ado, let's get back into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Deep Dive Part 3. Now, in one of the previous episodes, we did discuss the 1987 cartoon, and then we moved on to the movies. Now, we're going to go back to the 1987 cartoon briefly. We're actually going to go back just before the 1987 animation came to an end. There was actually a Ninja Turtles Japanese anime named The Mutant Turtles Superman Legend, roughly translated from Japanese. The cartoon was never released in English, but I do believe there is a dubbed version done for fans that can be found on YouTube. Well, actually saying that, I know for a fact that there's a dubbed cartoon on YouTube because I watched it for the episode. So yeah, you can actually find this cartoon on YouTube, and I recommend you go and give it a watch. The animation style in the cartoon is actually based on the animated series from 1987. It does look quite similar. Everyone looks the same, the designs are exactly the same, but then you have the usual anime madness thrown in that you will find in any Japanese anime film, if you know what I mean. It's like a kind of continuation of the 1987 cartoon as it was coming to an end everywhere else. Now, I don't know whether they intended to make any more of these cartoons. What I can tell you is they only made 2, and that was it. I believe the whole reason behind the making of these 2 cartoons was for one reason only, and that was to sell toys. And they did actually get these toys on the market. They look like big kind of Gundam wing Ninja Turtle figures, if that makes sense. The Ninja Turtles were heavily armoured. So let me just give you a little bit more of an understanding of what the actual plot was to this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Japanese anime. And for that, I'm going to go over to a wiki page and just read out the plot for you. Episode 1 was called The Great Crisis of the Super Turtles, The Saint Appears. This was broadcast in May the 21st, 1996. The Turtles explore the Temple of the Lost Muta Kingdom, where they free the Spirit of Light called Cries Mew, who was trapped inside the Muta Stone. In reward, she gives the Turtles the ability to perform super mutation, which transforms them into Super Turtles for 3 minutes. When all 4 Super Turtles combine into one, they fuse into an almighty Turtle Saint. At the same time, Shredder and Krang find the Dark Muta Stones, and they try to awaken the demoness Dark Mu contained inside the crystal. And episode 2 was called The Coming of the Guardian Beasts. The Metal Turtles appear. The Turtles, along with April and Splinter, travel to Japan in order to help Kinzu Hattori get rid of a ghost haunting the Hattori house. And at the same time, Shredder, Bebop and Rocksteady teleport themselves to Japan in order to seal the tablet of the 7 elements, so they can gain powers of the Guardian Beasts. So that's a wiki summary. I'm going to now try and describe in my own words what this cartoon was like, and it is a very strange cartoon. As you know, some animes are awesome, some animes I find totally fascinating and brilliant, and then some I just find totally strange, and this one falls under that category. Now, in the cartoons, as I just mentioned in the plot, the Turtles have these stones that can transform them. When the Turtles use these Mutastones, which is what they're called in the cartoon, they become enhanced, and they look a bit like, the best way I can describe it, they come a bit like tall, muscular Wolverine characters, like Wolverine out of the X-Men. Due to the helmets they wear, really, it just looks like the Wolverine mask. The animation is very good in parts, and some characters, although they look more or less the same, they do look slightly different. For one, they are all drawn and animated slightly better than the 1987 episodes, but they also have that anime flair to them as well. The big differences, I'd say, are Shredder and April. Shredder looks more sinister, and he's been given a brand new outfit and design, whilst April looks more or less the same, except from her face. She definitely looks more anime in the eyes. Now, in my opinion, this cartoon has some impressive animations, but makes no sense whatsoever, and the story is just bananas, and it is actually can be quite annoying and frustrating to watch. But like I said, that is just my opinion, and my opinion alone. It has created a little bit of a cult following, so there's obviously some people out there who like it, but I think in general, I think most people tend to think that it is a strange addition to the cartoon. It definitely is. Give it a watch and see what you think. But in my opinion, I think this two-parter cartoon series was just purely and simply made just to sell the very strange toys that they brought out to coincide with each one of the episodes. And so, back in the US, as the 1987 series came to an end, the Ninja Turtles needed a new TV show, and it was decided that the next project would be a live-action TV series like the Power Rangers made by Saban and Fox Kids. Unfortunately, this was probably the lowest point in the Ninja Turtles history. Instead of the fourth movie, which I told you about in the last episode we did, we got this TV series instead. The Turtles look different than in the movies. The bandanas for one, they now covered the whole head, apart from maybe Raphael, I think. They also saw fit to change the Ninja Turtles' weapons. Leonardo now only carries one sword in this, and Michelangelo now fights with tonfas instead of nunchucks. Now, as I mentioned in the last episode, there was plans to make a fourth Ninja Turtle movie, and in that movie they were going to introduce a fifth turtle called Kirby, and we did actually cover this in the last episode, I think it was, so if you haven't listened to that yet, be sure to go back and give that a download. Now, in this TV series, they did actually introduce a fifth turtle, but it didn't go down very well. The fifth turtle in this was called Venus de Milo, and she was a female Ninja Turtle, which was reluctantly given the go-ahead by Peter Laird, which would probably go on to prove to be a big mistake. Venus de Milo is possibly one of the biggest upsets about this series. She was not liked at all, and still to this day, she is considered to be one of the worst ever characters introduced into the Ninja Turtle franchise. Nobody really likes her. Nobody at all. Now, in the TV series, Venus de Milo is sent to find the Ninja Turtles when her master dies. Apparently she was with the other four turtles on the day of their mutation, but she was taken to Japan and taught the mystical arts of the shinobi. Now, first of all, people hated her design. She was given a blue bandana, like Leo's. I'm not sure why she didn't get her own colour. Maybe pink would have been a good idea for a girl, maybe, or any different colour, yellow. But they give her the same colour of Leonardo. To make it different and to make her more girl-like, they actually braided the tail of the bandana, what comes down the shoulders. They braided it as if it was her. And probably perhaps the most laughable thing about this character is that they actually chose to give her turtle boobs on the front of a shell. Now, Venus was introduced into the show to be some kind of love interest for the Ninja Turtles. You can see that they're all pining over her. They've never met another female turtle before, so obviously they're all drooling over her. But the problem with this is they're all brothers, so does that mean that she's the sister as well? So this kind of plays with incest a little bit, and it gets a little bit weird and a little bit strange in that sense. So what they actually did, they actually changed the origin story, and so it was established that all the turtles were just Pet Shop Turtles, and they had never actually been related. They were not blood brothers. And of course, as you can guess, this idea was hated. None of the fans of Ninja Turtles liked this idea. They wanted them to be brothers, like they had been in the comic books and in the 1987 cartoon. And another thing that would be hated would be the costumes that they used in this TV series. Now, if you cast your mind back to the third film, if you thought those costumes were bad, you could be swayed into thinking they were actually acceptable compared to these ones that we got in this TV series. Take the animatronics for one. The animatronics in the faces were awful. The mouths rarely moved in sync with the audio. Master Splinter was now a man in a suit rather than a puppet, and he looked absolutely terrible. This all actually reminded me of the coming out of the Shell tour we covered earlier in another episode. The costumes were just as bad as they were for that show. Now, another negative, you didn't have any April, you didn't have Casey, or Shredder. Well, saying that, Shredder did actually appear in the very first episode, but his costume was absolutely terrible. And after that first episode, you never really see him again, which was probably a good thing. Now, when you're watching this series, you might actually recognise a few of the sets from some of the previous movies. And I say this because I am 95% sure that the turtle layer that they use in this TV series is the exact same one from the Ninja Turtles 2 and the Ninja Turtles 3. It looks like they've used a few of the set designs from the previous films and just recycled them into this TV series. But saying that, this could also be an indication that this TV series was a carry-on from the movies, like it's all set in the same universe and the story is just continuing from the movies over to the TV series. Or it could just simply be that they reused some of the old sets that were for some reason still standing. But I will say there is one more indication that this may be a continuation from the 3 films that came previously. Now, do you recall the scene in the first movie where Shredder kills Splinter's master and Splinter frees himself from the cage and jumps to his face and scratches at Shredder's face, but then Shredder slashes at Splinter's ear and cuts a little bit of his ear off? Well, if you look at Splinter's ear in the TV series, that slash on his ear still remains, so this is a indication that it is possibly a continuation from the movies. Now, like I said before, this TV series is generally hated. Not a lot of people like it. Probably one of the most interesting episodes in the series was a 2-parter which saw the Ninja Turtles universe and the Power Rangers universe collide. And we got a Turtles and Power Rangers crossover team-up episode. And I'm not going to lie, it was quite entertaining to see the Ninja Turtles and the Power Rangers cross paths. It was quite an entertaining episode. It wasn't great by any means, but it was interesting. Head over to YouTube and type that into the search box and have a look for yourself, see what you think. Now, after 26 episodes, the Next Mutation TV series had come to an end, and it was ultimately cancelled, and it was probably for the best. After the Next Mutation, we would have to wait around 5 years before the Turtles would return to our screens, and when it did return, it was probably one of the best Ninja Turtle cartoons we have had, even to this day. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2003 animated series. One of the best things to happen to this animated series was that it was co-produced by Mirage Studios, which meant this series was much more closer to the original material from the Mirage comic books. And because of this cartoon felt more darker, more edgy, and more gritty than any previous TV adaptation that had come before it. But at the same time, they did manage to keep it light and fun. It was just a perfect mix, and this show saw the revival of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as a Saturday morning cartoon favourite. Now, I was 20 years old at the time when this first aired, and I was really looking forward to seeing a new Ninja Turtles cartoon on our screens after being disappointed with the Next Mutation that came previously and all the other stuff we got in between. And I remember being so pleased with the first episode. Now, as the episode starts, you see that the Turtles are all cornered in an alley by the Purple Dragon Gang. Now, this is exactly how the original comic book started. Even the dialogue is the same until they actually jump into action and the fighting starts, and I love this. Already we had complete loyalty to the comic books. Finally, once again, the powers that be seem to be doing something right. Now, at this particular time in my life, I worked in a toy shop, and I remember how great it was to see these brand new Ninja Turtle action figures arrive in stock, and I thought, this is the Ninja Turtles for a new generation. Like, just as I had enjoyed them back in 1987, now it was time for a new generation of kids to enjoy this show. And if I'm totally honest, I also felt like a kid again. I was very excited about this, and I couldn't wait to see the new episode. I mean, I remember placing these toys on the shelves, pricing them up and putting them on the shelves for other kids to buy, and just remembering my toys that I had in the past and how different they look now and how much better they looked. And I was just so envious that I was deemed too old now to play with them. Even though now, to this day, I have actually got a room full of toys what I display, because I suppose, really, we never grow up. And like I said, I just couldn't wait to watch this show. But at the time, I didn't have Sky TV, I didn't have cable TV, I don't think YouTube was a thing at that time. If it was, it wasn't like it is now. So I had no way of watching this show, so I'll hold my hands up right now. And I actually went to one of the pirate sites and I downloaded the first episode, and it was fantastic. It was absolutely brilliant, and I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight now into what this cartoon was all about. And I just want to say, I did pirate the first episode, but when the DVDs did come out in the UK, I did purchase them. I did show my support for the show. So, the 2003 Ninja Turtles cartoon series. The first major difference was the characters in this series. They were different to the older cartoon. They were more in line with the comic books. Mikey is like the wise guy, the wise cracking guy, funny, cocky, childish, and loves playing pranks. Raphael is changed the most in this. You remember in the 1987 cartoon, he was the one always cracking jokes. He was more or less like Mikey in that aspect. In this adaptation, he has a very fiery, explosive temper, just like in the comic books, but he is also shown to have a caring and loving side to him as well. And then we have Leonardo, who is super